What is going on, guys? So, today we're going to be talking about distribution because everyone thinks marketing is about creativity, but it's actually the least important part. So, marketing isn't about creativity, it's about distribution. So, what does that actually mean? So, everybody gets this wrong because everybody thinks marketing is a creative thing, right? Like, who has the most creative angles? Who has the most creative ideas? Who has the best videos and blah 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 blah, which is important. Don't get me wrong. Like, obviously, like having unique marketing is important. It can make your marketing more profitable. However, it's not the main thing, and people tend to think it's like the main thing. It's about who can be more creative. That's why you see a bunch of ads that are funny or ads that just aren't relevant to what the person's selling because they have people that believe that marketing is about how funny it can get or how I don't know how trendy it can get, what influencer you have here, what influencer you have there, and all those things are helpful to make your marketing more profitable, but it's not the main thing. And this is where people go wrong. And let me ask you a question: why do the best products have the least creative marketing? When was the last time you saw a mega creative ad from Apple? Like yeah, when they started off, they were extremely creative, but now it's like whatever. Like they'll just show you the product and that's that. Or if you look at specific products, like it's just very bland. Like it's very like there might be a little bit of a story, but it's not like over the top. You're like, wow, like they just put on a whole movie. Like they just had some cinema level commercial. It's never to that extent. And why is it that? It's because distribution, the definition of distribution is the process of making a product or service available for the consumer or business user that needs it. And the best companies are the best marketers, not because they're the most creative, but they're the best at distribution. Their ability to make their product or service available for the consumer or business that needs it is why they have such a big reach, and they have global dominance in some cases, like Coca-Cola. If you were to go to the store and you were to see five different brands of cola, Cola A, Cola B, Cola C, Coca-Cola, Cola D, Cola E, which you're gonna go with? Probably Coca-Cola, because that's the one you know, you're familiar with it. So why is that? Like, why do people tend to choose with what they're familiar? It's because it is a human bias in our brain that because we're familiar with it, we're more comfortable with it, so we're gonna choose it. However, when you're actually selecting and you're in the buying process and you're making a decision, you're gonna go with the product that is familiar, but you're gonna go with the product that you've already seen other people enjoy. So that's why Coca-Cola, every time you're choosing a cola to go buy, you're gonna choose Coca-Cola. So, and because of that, that effect of people have you've seen people drink it before, you're familiar with it. It just keeps compounding, and why they'll make another cola brand completely irrelevant. So that's why distribution wins at the end of the day because it's not about marketing in terms of creativity. It's about your economics. So your ability to make the math work is more important than your ability to make someone laugh or someone like be like, wow, that was a cool commercial. And yeah, and if you don't make it available, then they don't know you, and because they don't know you, they're gonna go with someone else. And being the most known is the biggest competitive advantage, hands down. Because a lot of the times, there's people who think people are like the best at something, but they're not really the best. They're just the most known. And because they're the most known, they get perceived to be the best. And because they're perceived to be the best, then they become the best, not because they actually are, but because they have the perception. So this is true in so many levels, but a lot of people, it's a lot of the times, like I'm gonna give you a perfect example. It's like a lot of the times, like, and I use this with Kylie Jenner because a lot of people think Kylie Jenner is the prettiest girl in the world. She's not, but she's the most popular, so people think she is the prettiest. However, if you were to look at some model from Brazil who's like not really known, I'm sure way there's girls who have way rare features than Kylie Jenner and aren't plastic surgery out, and they're actually the most beautiful, but because they're not the most known, they're not perceived to be the most beautiful because they don't have 400 million followers on Instagram. So distribution is marketing, and your ability to have the best distribution is going to give you the biggest competitive advantage. And when is this relevant? This is relevant all the time because your ability to make the math work is the number one skill anybody can develop. So anytime you can ask yourself, what's the math behind this? After anything, it doesn't have to be about marketing, but if you can just figure out the math behind whatever is in front of you, it's going to give you a lot of certainty in terms of where you want to go to make that thing happen. So if you're throwing a party and you know you want 20 people there, well, are you just going to invite 20 people? If you know that typically on average 50% of people actually show up, you're not going to invite 20, you're going to invite 40. So that way you invite 40, 20 show up. Compared if you just invite 20, then 10 would show up, then you're disappointed. It's very true in the case of marketing. It's like if you don't have that financial projection or that financial model, if you don't know what financial model is, your financial model is to be able to have a set of numbers where it filters. Let's say if you want to have one client, there's a certain percentage of people find out about you, certain percentage convert to the next step, certain percentage convert to the next step, certain percentage convert to the next step, certain percentage convert to the next step until you finally get a client. So your ability to reverse engineer, they call it cascading percentages. Those percentages, they get smaller and smaller. That's your ability to create a financial model and predict how to actually create the result that you're looking for. And this is what the top marketers use. They understand financial models, and because they do that, they know they don't get disappointed when they spend money and it doesn't become profitable. And that's the difference between beginner level entrepreneurs versus the ones who are advanced. It's they understand that concept, and even though it's so simple, it's very underutilized, and people market from a position of feeling, and because they market from a position of feeling, they ignore the data, and because they ignore the data, they are not successful in terms of advertising because they quit too soon. They don't spend enough money, and because of that, they get disappointed in marketing and the advertising, and then they don't think it works, and then they never try again. And because of that, their business ends up dying because they rely on word of mouth, and because they rely on word of mouth, they're never able to grow fast enough to put themselves in a position not to survive but to thrive. So if you want to know why marketing is more so of a game of distribution than it is about creativity, hopefully that gave you a good explanation. Because if more people understood this, they would stop worrying so much about the really fancy video or the really fancy, whatever, and they would worry about getting their offer in front of more people. Because once you can get your offer in front of more people, you're going to put yourself in a position where people are actually going to take you up on that offer, become clients, and that's how you grow a business. It's less about how fancy your video is, how HD it is, if you have captions in your videos, or how cool the video looks. Like no one actually cares, because at the end of the day, yeah, it might make you feel good to think you have good branding, but that's level two, right? Like if you don't have level one, meaning you don't have the proper distribution, then no matter how good your videos are, it's just gonna go to waste because you're gonna have a great video, it's not gonna work, and you're gonna get disappointed. So marketing is more of a game of distribution and having a financial model of understanding how many people do you need to reach to get a client, compared than it is about how cool your video looks or blah blah blah, whatever people think is the most important factor, like SEO or I don't know. Hopefully that was helpful. That's why paid advertising has been the most successful marketing channel in history. It's always gonna be around. People will always sell advertising placements regardless of where it is. People will sell them at their restaurant. I literally walked into a restaurant and seen, when I opened the menu to go see what steak I wanted to get, I saw an advertisement. Now imagine 10,000 people saw that advertisement, 10% converted. Let's say 1,000, 10,000 people, 1,000 people actually were like, oh, look at that. 10% was like, wow, let me check them out. That's 100 people. 100 people checked out the website, 10% booked the call, 10% became a client, right? So out of 10,000 people, 10 were interested, 10, and then out of that, 10% actually went to the website, which is 100 people. Out of the 100 people, 10% people booked the call, which is 10 people, and then 10% actually became a client. So that's one client. Now, let's say that was 10. Let's say 10,000 people saw it every day. That means you get a client a day of that. Obviously, that's very simplified, and real life never really actually plays out like that. But it gets really close. And when you can get close enough on that level, then you're gonna be very happy. And I promise you, you're not gonna be disappointed if it's off by 10 to 50% plus or minus wherever the number is. So hopefully that was helpful. Hopefully that was a great lesson on distribution, and hopefully that was able to change your mind a little bit. Rather than investing on a super fancy video, invest in spending more on getting your message out there, and most importantly, have a good offer where people want to uptake you on that. So that way, when you do reach the appropriate amount of people, don't just ignore it because your offer sucks. Thank you. I'll see you guys in the next one.